there, Mike Priverson. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I was just cleaning my chalkboard wall so I could show what's going on
Okay.
in the league.
I like that. I like the idea. That is this your humble abode, your office here?
Yeah. This is my office here. I'm not going to show the floor because that's where all my files are.
The files you dumped out earlier today when you just like cleaning house. You're like,
Yeah, I'm going to have a
don't need it.
bonfire later.
I like all the plaques on the wall, my friend. See what you got there. Show it off. Okay.
American Psycho. You know it.
Yeah,
you know what it
man. Classic. Let me see the business card, man. Let me see it. All right, man. First one. How you feeling?
It's rough out here.
Yeah, I feel you, brother.
You don't feel me.
We can't start off with now. We got to start off, how we got to this point. So, last year you started out 0-2. You didn't make too many changes last year. This year you start out 0-2. What was your mindset last year, and then what did you learn from last year?
Man, last year I think I drafted way better overall, and there were some unfortunate things that happened that were even beyond the player's health. So if you remember last year, I drafted Odell Beckham. Mike Evans was my keeper.
Yep.
And then drafted Christian McCaffrey. Wanted the connection with Cam. Pulled in Olsen. And then within the first 3 weeks, Mike Evans' game was canceled week 1.
Hurricane.
I can't remember if OBJ played week 1 or not.
Remember that's when he got hurt in the preseason with his shin or his ankle or high ankle sprain or saying? Yep.
So OBJ, Mike Evans were out week 1, so that was an easy dub for whoever I played. Don't remember who it was.
Yep.
Week 2, I believe everybody came back.
Yep. But
Mike Evans was a no-show basically all season.
The shell of himself.
And then shortly thereafter, Greg Olsen broke his foot.
Yep.
And things started to kind of fall apart. I think I spent $14 on Paul Perkins with the expectation that he was going to be a decent RB2. So, wow. That was probably the biggest miss of the draft for me.
Hindsight 2020.
And then I think I tried to make a few trades. I think I was talking to you, which, in retrospect, should have made that one. Regardless of the final standings, should have made that trade. I think, I would have fared much better even going into this season. But I was reluctant just because of the name.
That was by far the biggest trade that was never a trade.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe you need to tell everybody so that they know what trade I didn't make.
I don't talk about that because my office hours were closed at that time, so I wasn't in the right state of mind when that happened. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I was on my honeymoon when we didn't make that
trade. I know.
So don't talk to me about the right state of mind.
Thank you, Liz, for telling him to get the fuck off the phone and stop talking shop. Thank you. I owe you. Thank you.
Man. So yeah, I think last year I was committed to trying to stick with those big pieces, hoping that I could work the waiver in some meaningful way. Didn't work out that way. Struggled with replacing at tight end. Struggled with finding a decent RB2. Finally had to move big pieces to get smaller ones that would actually just fill out a complete team. By that time, I think, there was really slim percentage of chance of me actually getting into the playoffs. I was just fighting to win as many games as possible just to save a little bit of face. I think I ended 5-8. I think I've been 5-8 the last 2 years, if I remember correctly. I think I've been sub 500. So this year didn't start off too much different. Ultimately, man, drafted in a disappointing way. I think in a weird way, even though there were fewer running backs, I think I underestimated the value that was still out there. And so didn't really chase anything at the beginning like I could have. I think the keeper miss for me was definitely Derrick Henry. Once I realized week 1 that he was gonna be, a la Trent Richardson kind of deal, and I'm, hoping for Jason's sake that he could turn it around, ultimately, but I don't have time to wait because I'm already 0-2.
Yeah.
So Freeman going down, Ingram staying suspended, Fournette with the hammy. I think Ingram was, what a lot of people don't know is that his bye week is week 5. So even though he had the 4-game suspension, it's really a 5-game delay. Mm-hmm. So me moving him with Freeman was really like an urgent package deal for somebody who could wait, like Dane with his squad now, because I needed production now. And at 0-2, I don't have time to wait 3 weeks to see what Ingram's going to be in that offense this year, right?
Exactly.
Just to take a look at it. So I tried to go ahead and mortgage those assets, figure out what I could bring in, and then ultimately, man, we're just, we're hitting a hard reset, man. I think the only pieces that haven't been touched to this point are Thielen and Cam. So
I imagine it's going to stay like that for a while, huh?
Yeah, man. I mean, hopefully, we'll see. Nobody's safe out here, man.
So your panic meter from 0 to 10. Where would you put that? Where would you put yourself in that panic meter, as far as prior trade?
A week ago, panic mode would have been like, in consideration of like 2, 5, and 8 back-to-back seasons, and then in consideration of like starting 0-2, plagued with injuries, and feeling strapped with, a plethora of running backs, none of whom were producing, dude, stress was super high. It would be like on the latter end of that scale.
Yeah.
Now, though, I'm in a much better place. I think that I have, I've put pieces in positions that I think are going to produce week to week, and I've still got some tricks up my sleeve. So I'm feeling all right, man.
That's a good one, man. Now, without indulging all your trade secrets, like, how do you go about trading, man? Do you just put out a feeler trade? Do you do you just check on the interest? Do you check and see who's available? Like, what do you do when you start initiating a trade?
I mean, this is going to sound super corny, but I just go through different people's rosters. I know generally, what positions I need and where I want to get better, but I try to kind of connect puzzle pieces to the extent possible. So where somebody might have depth at one position and they're lacking at another, and I could actually meet that need, it's like, that's a decent start. That's just like a good foundation, a starting basis for it.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, the trade with Jason, I think that he looked and felt a lot like T-Man did last year.
Yeah.
And ultimately discussions with him were kind of, they surrounded that whole, are you going to be slave to those 4 names, right? And consolidate and just be okay with your production being consolidated in those 4 names all season, and then only look for what you perceive to be objective equal value. Mm-hmm. And that's not my philosophy. I do think that there's a general value for every player, like on a stat sheet, but I don't think that every player is right for every squad. I think there's a whole lot of subjective value and context that goes into building a team. So I kind of leave all my presuppositions at the door. I tell people what I think I can do for them, and I tell them what I want from them. And I think that everybody that I trade with, ultimately, if you look in retrospect, maybe Brandon didn't like the Carlos Williams for Marshawn Lynch, but ultimately, I think a lot of the trades that I've made have been really productive. So I think, unfortunately for Leno, the OBJ acquisition for him, OBJ got injured right after, right? But I was lucky that Devontae Parker didn't pan out. I think there were a couple of other names in that deal. There were 4 names that he shipped me ultimately for 2 big names. And the only one that really panned out for me was Adam Thielen, right? So, sometimes there's you get surprised by what you bring in. Your expectations can't really, there's no real bright line view, but as much as I can, man, honest to God, man, everybody's gonna roast me in the chat for finessing and all that stuff, and that's cool. I get it. But
I honestly don't think
the only way that things work in my world is if you bring value for value, right? Yeah. If you you try to take 1 and 1 and equal 3, you try to make the other person feel like, okay, either I'm getting more dynamic or I'm getting more depth, or something for them to feel like they're walking away a more complete or better version of themselves, so that when you walk away, they don't feel like you're running off with with regret. Because ultimately, if you spend time trying to finesse people out of good players and they make a wrong move, that's a really short term strategy, because people won't trade with you ever again.
Exactly, man. And that's why I think you get away with so many trades, because you do such a good job trading, negotiating, and then making fair trades. And honestly, the only finesse, and I won't even count as a finesse, at that point in time in the season, he was hurting at a position. You had a guy that picked up and looked like he was up and coming, possibly.
Was hot, man. Yeah, Carlos Williams was
and Calvin Johnson. With Marshawn Lynch. And then you still worked your way and flipped that, you know what I'm saying? So that was only the finesse trade. The trades, how I looked at it, I'm not sure how you do. I got you as, in the win shares, I got you as 1 win in a trade, 1 loss in a trade, and a kind of a tie in a wash in a trade. So far, I got you winning the trade with Jason, strictly because you were hurting, not bad at receiver, but the receiver definitely needed to be addressed, and you got that.
Oh, man, I mean, I was definitely hurting. I think Demaryius Thomas is a great name. I think he's a solid guy. He's got a decent floor. He sees a lot of targets every week. But he's not the Demaryius Thomas of 2014, 2015, right? He's not the Demaryius Thomas with Peyton Manning. He's not running the screen routes. He's not getting, like, out in space and, like, having room to stretch those legs anymore. Case Keenum works better from the slot. Demaryius works on the outside. So, like, it was a tough thing. Yeah, but I definitely was hurting there.
I think you were probably ecstatic to get from under the Fournette, Yeldon, and like we had discussions. I'll be open about it. We had discussions about it, and that's if the injuries never happened, I probably would have been definitely more open to making something happen. But I didn't want that headache, and I'm sure you're happy that it's moved on. I'm hoping Fournette and Henry can get better, but I had you winning that trade because of you got the surefire wide receiver 1, tier 1 guy.
Right, and ultimately I think that Thielen was never supposed to be a wide receiver 1.
No.
Even in my draft strategy, he wasn't supposed to be the receiver that emerged as wide receiver 1 for me.
Yeah.
It's just the way that things fell given everybody else's strategy within the draft. And I feel like the reason I said that before that I was too conservative even on the running back side, even though those commodities were limited, is because I walked away spending $20 on Corey Davis, right, and $28 on Demaryius Thomas.
Yep.
And that just, I think that you look back on that as like you spent good money, and it's a value pick.
Yeah.
But there isn't a whole lot of like precedent to say, oh, that's a really sneaky move, right? That's a clever move. He's going to be a good. Ultimately, all of those two could be is like packaged together or something like that for a trade such as I made with Tom.
And you look back and you combine those two, what you spent on, you got Tyreek Hill kind of guy. You got Tyreek Hill went for 49, so you combine that, maybe put a different buck here and there, and you possibly got a Tyreek Hill. But
spent 7 on Vaughn. He hasn't even seen any burn.
and I don't think he'll see any. But that's another discussion for another day. Second trade. I thought you lost, but it needed to be done. I thought it was a good loss. It was a good L you took. And I don't understand why the troll, who I'm talking about, was the troll in this one ever. You got Chris Thompson.
Yep.
That is great for right now. That is great for what you need. But long term, you don't know what you're going to get all season long necessarily.
No, and I mean, he's coming off a huge injury.
But in that system, he looks great, but it still is Alex Smith. We know how he gets in later in the year, and you don't know with the Redskins how actually competitive they will be year-round. And then you gave up, Devontae Freeman and Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two legitimate RB2s pressing, could have been RB1s. And then Dane already has the Kamara set up. And then one of those guys are going to be almost flex plays for him.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, so that was, I wrestled with that a lot because Dane was correct when we were talking. He said, I have the leverage. And I couldn't refute that.
Yeah.
But at that point, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that trading is a really contextually driven thing.
Fluid,
right?
Man,
so the circumstances drove that trade entirely. Those two backs were completely unusable to me at that point.
Yep.
In a position where I absolutely needed production because even Fournette wasn't usable at that point.
Exactly,
right?
Yep.
So that, he definitely won that. I think that where I won on the back end is necessarily Chris Thompson being a PPR
and
monster.
DJ
right?
Moore for later year for possible end of season kind of thing. Definitely.
Right. And then Jeffrey, I think, is a miss. I could have had Jeffrey from Dane last year.
Yes.
That was another regret I had about trades is that I drove so hard at Terrell Pryor.
Yes, but still, Jeffrey this year, that receiving core is totally wide open right now, man. And it's literally his for the taking if he can come back and be healthy.
So, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to. And ultimately, you solidify Julio, Thielen, 1 and 2.
Yep.
Put Chris Thompson in a running back spot. Hopefully, get the volume at the reception level. Let Jeffrey come back. And then work out something. Crowell's still at the running back spot. Just made the trade for Tevin Coleman. So now my actual, the squad actually feels more complete, right? So even if Jeffrey doesn't play this week, I have to flex in whoever it is. You know, I think I picked up Boyd just as an experiment. But there's enough production on the board at this point to make me feel comfortable, like I can actually compete. Man, I put up 99.5 points and then like 120 something points. Week 1, week 2, respectively, and that's just it's not going to get it done, man.
No, not right now, not this era,
Dude, I mean, props to everybody out there slinging it right now, man. I mean, I've never seen Prestige put up this many points ever. I don't know. I feel like there was a secret society meeting with the league. They're like, listen, we're hemorrhaging our fans. We're just going to start padding the stats, change the rules, get these fantasy owners to be fans.
It's scary out here, man. When you see Tyreek Hill do this right here on the game field, it's scary, bro. It really is, man. So I got to ask you. So now, obviously, those trades were done within minutes of each other. Within minutes. So now, would you have done either of those trades? I feel like those are like almost like a 3-team, like a complement, like almost like they were meant to go together. Like you had that locked in, ready to go. Would you have done either one of those trades if one of them fell through?
Yes, I think the trade with Jason I would have done no matter what, regardless of whether the trade transpired with Dane. But I really wanted. I started kind of like dragging my feet a little bit with Jason to have them line up because the trade with Dane actually started coming together. And so I wanted that to occur so that it didn't materially alter one of their perspectives unnecessarily. I wanted those two to happen at the same time so Dane didn't feel like, oh, well, you just got Julio, so whatever, and try to demand more, right? Plus, you know, I mean, I was already taking the L on that trade. You already said that, right? I already felt like I was giving up too much, and for whatever reason, it was able to, you know, kind of come together. So that I think is probably the proudest I've been is being able to actually manufacture two trades independent of one another and transact at the same time.
I want to say that is the first time that's happened in Prestige history, so I commend you for that, sir.
I appreciate it.
Who'd you start negotiating with first?
Definitely Jason. That took about 3 weeks, man.
Oh, really? That was the long play, huh?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, you know, he had new toys. He wanted to test them out. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough for me to kind of like to push that. I think, especially Fournette getting injured, gave him, you know, justifiable pause.
Yeah.
Plus he won. You know, like so he had, you know, money in his pocket, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of be patient with that, but definitely started talking to him way in advance. I try to get in and out with Dane. I can't stand letting it go because that man will start talking about Neil Armstrong, and I don't got time.
Aren't you at school or something, man? You got lunch to go.
I'm on the clock.
All right, I feel you. Yeah, and ultimately, I feel like Jason needed that trade more than Dane did because I look at the whole Julio, OBJ, Antonio Brown aspect, and yes, they can have magical weeks. They can have magical weeks all together. But to put that much stock into receivers, especially going late into the year, it's kind of iffy putting all that stock in the receiver and not having a guy that's going to tear it up on the ground possibly.
I mean, ultimately that was really like my whole, you know, my whole approach to it was kind of, I mean, like I said, I mean, he was T-Man circa 2017, right?
Except reverse.
Having negotiated with T-Man till I was blue in the face last year when he had that trio, I mean, it was nearly impossible because his approach to it was, I'm winning enough games, I'm getting enough production, and even with the Zeke suspension looming, it was like, suspension be damned. You know, you're not selling me anything that's going to make me better. And it was hard. It was really hard to have that conversation. I think ultimately, you know, he caught some really lucky breaks with that suspension news, and he wrote it out. So you know, there were those two options, but I think ultimately him not winning the chip is what actually cast the die in my favor. Because if he had, I mean, Jason would have had a blueprint for saying, look, I got Brady, got Brown, got OBJ, got Julio. What are you saying to me? I just need some more bodies at RB1, RB2, and tight end.
I definitely agree with that. Now, as far as when you got the trades, when they were finalized, they were in your inbox, and all you had to do was click accept. How long did it take you to click that accept button for both? And then
hesitation, man.
No hesitation, just pull the trigger.
We're jacking. We Reggie Miller in the finals.
Step back, James Harden, just rip it. I ain't mad at you. And no buyer's remorse from those two trades there. None of them.
No, man, not at all. Not so far. Plus, I haven't had a full week with them, so they're still fresh.
Yeah.
I haven't actually gone into war with them yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate having buyer's remorse. I think the only thing that would really cast a cloud over it is if there's an injury, man, and I think that's with everything. So, the only thing I'm doing right now is praying for health.
Yep.
And then hopefully, man, I'll be honest. Low key, I'm super excited about having Dan Bailey on this call. Chris Boswell was like, he was ripping my soul out.
I was so upset this morning when I seen it, brother. Trust me, I was like, damn, I wanted another week of Boswell. He took my JPP hate away.
Right before I went to sleep, man, I was like, do I do $2? Four. I was like, what? I was like, what is my budget at? It was like 54. I was like, 4.
Yeah.
Make it even 50. How much am I spending on a kicker?
I was so upset. I was so looking forward to hearing either more JPP hate or more Boswell hate, man. You took my fun away from me on Sundays, goddamn.
Oh man, can't keep giving those storylines at my expense.
Oh
can't do it.
My God, man. All right, the last trade, the Donald. Now he's made. I'm not sure if you know this. He's made 4 trades in his entire tenure in PFC.
Had no idea.
So now this year he's made 3 already. I think you were second or third of the day. I don't know if he's just in a whole new upswing and he wants to start making some moves, or did you have to kind of work him down a little bit and get that trade going?
No, man, negotiating with Don is different. I think that might be a generational thing because, we all interact in bands, so we're either texting each other or we're going back and forth on the private chat in band, and then going back to the main group just for sort of the general debauchery that goes on to their day to day. But I sent Don a text or a message in band earlier, super early this morning, and then he just told me to send something through to the trade counter. So it's again, I'm not going to force, what I want to do, knowing that, if I really want this to go through, meet him on his turf. So sent something through, and then I just sent another message back and said, send it through, give me feedback. He denied the trade initially. I'm not going to say who I offered initially, but I knew that I was close because he actually said, he gave me the necessary feedback. And then all I had to do was go back to the board, and really it was a preset. I had 2 or 3 preset packages that I was putting through to him. I wasn't really going to wiggle from a lot of that. I wanted Tevin Coleman. I wasn't, I was also at the same time thinking about, Brandon is in dire straits, needs some pieces, trying to work out something for him because that's really, that'd be a clear upgrade. Thinking about T-Man because he's still, he's got a needed receiver. He's got some stud running backs. Even Jared, even though his running backs are somewhat banged up, is out there, to get. So I think that there were options for me. Don was low pressure, and I think like I told you at the beginning, I honestly I don't come with the BS when I'm trying to get something done, and so I gave him value, and I think I give myself credit for giving him the momentum to make a third trade. I think I was the second, but I think he was riding that high. He got that initial. It's like he got that quick layup in with Jared. And then he and I moved some decent pieces back and forth, and I think he felt like he was getting good value. So snowball effect. So I don't know. That one was probably the easiest to make, really, because there was no talking. Typically, I like to be able to go back and forth and just get a sense of really where the other person is coming from. If they say no on one person or whatever, or they're specifically keying on somebody else. With Don, it was pretty clear what he needed. So I gave him what I thought he needed, and I was right. So
great job, man. Yeah, he was on one today, man. He was trying to move some stuff around. So good for you getting in there. I like Tevin Coleman for the now, and then we honestly, just like Joe Mixon. Just like Sony Michel, he's kind of starting to bounce back now, but you don't know how long that knee is going to be hindering him. And then, for just till week 5 and then he's good, or to week 7, 8, he's still kind of banged up. You just don't know what's going to happen with a running back, So.
Well, let me walk back something I said a few minutes ago because you asked about buyer's remorse. And the trade with Dane was definitely, I think, from the outside an objective L. I think that after that trade was made, I remember new news broke, and it was that ESPN had gotten the original prognosis wrong for Devontae Freeman. They initially said that initially it was 2 to 3 weeks, and then they shoved it back 3 to 4 weeks, and then Dan Quinn in the media session was just like, I never said that, right? Like, you guys are working on information that hasn't been actually given to you from the source.
Yeah.
He's like, he's day to day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I had this moment of panic where I was like, I just gave Dane an active back.
Yeah.
Plus Ingram.
Yeah.
For a banged receiver and a PPR back, right? And I know that that's really reductive on my side because that's not how it's going to function for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a moment of panic. So I do think that when I calmed down from that, I kind of realized, it's not in the team's interest to give information that is too predictive for other teams to say, okay, we're only going to game plan for Tevin Coleman and Ito Smith or whatever because, Freeman's going to be out. I do expect that Freeman will be out this week and perhaps the week following. He didn't show up for practice today. So I'm not too sad about it, but I did think that I wasn't going to have Ingram or Freeman for like a solid 3 more weeks. To be honest.
And once again, you never know, man. They could say he's coming back until the cows come home, but it's just, and even if when he does come back, how healthy he's going to be.
Same knee.
Exactly. So we'll see. All in all, great trades, man. This is probably the most historic trading 2 days with probably 18 hours or something like that. 3 trades done, in and out in the books, So prior to all those trades, I had you in a slot, and I'm thinking of moving you in certain places in the power ranking. But where would you say you rank now with your roster as it is, all put together and all been molded? Where would you say that you put yourself in the power rankings? You could just give me a broad range. You don't have to give me an exact number, but.
Man, look, I think you know that I disagree with you ranking me so high even after the draft. I knew you were gassing me, so I'm not even going to say that
I would never gas you, dog. Never, dog. Never. He's going to sip my tea.
Oh, man, you're just sitting at the pump. Just...
Damn. He ain't full yet.
So obviously he started third, dropped way down like 4 spots. I think I should have been lower than that. Honestly, when you start those videos and I'm rolling through, I'm thinking like, okay, this is me. It's not me. I think it's me, not me, because I can make a case for it. I think after the trades, definitely hovering around that. I would say 6 to 8 range, 6th, 7th, 8th. I do think that I underestimated specifically Jarrett's draft. I think he drafted extremely well. Considering the way that those players have performed in the first couple of weeks. Pop blew the doors off, and again, I think that I might have said this to you, but I think, Pop kind of, to me, he drafts the same way every year, right? He has a very solid and disciplined approach, and I think this is the first year that it has worked out the way that it was supposed to work out in his head. It's like we're all watching it actually come together the way that he kind of game plan for it. So, I don't know that I'm even in that same stratosphere. Dane's draft, I love that team. I love the philosophy of the draft that he put together. I think focusing almost exclusively on ball catchers is a really, it reminds me of sort of a Golden State Warriors offense in a way in fantasy, right?
Yeah, best show on turf.
And then, of course, I can make an easy case for where you are just on your keepers alone and the way that Mahomes has turned out for you as well. So I don't even think I'm in that class yet. I think that if we can get a couple of wins back to back and I can start seeing some guys, gain rapport, Thielen and Kirk, knock on wood, they look good together right now. If Julio can get in the box more routinely, I think I'll feel better.
Can you say that one more time for me?
I said if Julio can get in the box.
Okay, yeah. Just making sure.
Call up Amazon.
Alexa, please get Julio in the box.
So I'd say 6 to 8, and I leave some room there. I do think that there's a pretty clear bottom, but I wouldn't put it. I think that now with the pieces that Don is kind of bringing in, he's got some more stability. I think that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, provided that Aaron Rodgers is on the field, is going to be an extremely productive connection for him. Zeke, what are you going to say, man? The blue visor just makes him the most legit running back in the league. And so there are people. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that and again, Zeke hasn't even had a real breakout performance in the first two games, and he's already putting up like 16, 17, 18 points in the first couple of games, and it's like that's easy money. I think that the way you described Jamal Charles back in 2015, you were like, Jamal Charles is money in the bank. I think Zeke is the same kind of player. So there's some guys that, I think Jason is gonna surprise some people with the way that his production goes up. I mean, that Alex Collins trade, Dane, bro, what are you doing?
I agree with you 100% until I watched that Ravens game and seen how much they use Buck Allen. And then I realized, like, oh, shit. Dane's got Buck Allen, man. Dane's got Buck Allen. So now, are you going to keep Buck Allen and Alex Collins? Or
it was the same thing with Crowell and
Powell. So are you going to keep both of those guys, or get a guy has great keeper value if he can get on the field with his quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo and make plays? So I initially I hated it. I was like, Dane, what the hell are you doing? But looking back at it, it's not as bad if Goodwin can stay healthy and actually make plays.
But here's the deal. It's not really. I'm not even really talking about Dane. I'm talking Dane proactively. I'm talking about Dane playing defense because now, I mean, he made that trade. I was already working on shipping Fournette to Jason. So now Alex Collins isn't an RB1 at all, right?
Exactly.
Alex Collins is an RB2. He's got Fournette, Brown, OBJ, right?
So very true. Yep.
I think that there's a lot to talk about with Jason now, especially with Brady sitting at the top there.
Exactly. Very true, man. So that is awesome, man. It was great sitting down for the first interview. It's only right to get it to the trade king, Mr. Car Salesman himself.
Ooh,
everybody must go. Hurry up and buy.
They want to see me bleed.
If anybody does, I do, trust me. All right. Hey, so last and final thing. Can we make a trade happen right now on camera? One offer, heat's on. Give me one offer, yes or no, right now.
I'll trade you for...
Ooh, that's a hard no, sir. I'm not giving up that.
No, man, I wish I would have pushed harder for the Josh Gordon trade before he got traded to the Patriots. I was still, I think, I had interest.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to make it work because I had bigger problems to solve.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately that was, Josh Gordon was too much of a variable for me to pursue. But good Lord, man.
I got cold feet on that so quick because initially I put Josh Gordon up there because I was like, I don't want to be invested. I don't want to have to worry about Josh Gordon week to week. That's why I got Allen Robinson. And I was like, he's great keeper value. I'm sure someone will bite on it. Let me see if I can get something. And then you started coming at. You were like really the first one to start coming at me. I was like, ooh, Josh, bro. I've been in on Josh Gordon since fucking day one, brother.
Somebody was like, Mike's in the parking lot, in the office, like looking at the cameras, like, wait a minute.
I don't know if you remember that year. It was like 2015, 2016, I had Josh Gordon and like Big Ben. They both went off against you like for a crazy week. And
because that's the same year that you had Dez and Julio, I think, right?
Yep. And I just was been so invested, and I was literally gonna pick him up at like week 2 of last year. But I was like, all right, I'm just gonna lay low. And then that article came out. I was like, ooh, hold off. And I was like, all right, man, it's getting too hot on the block, and I scooped him, man. And honestly, who knows what the hell's gonna happen in New England, and who knows how everything's gonna pan out. But it's just, it's hard, man. It's hard to give up that kind of value. And
speaking of the Patriots, Pop, if you're listening, ship me James White, man. I want James. Give me Jim. Send Jim White to me.
Yeah, okay, Jimmy. Okay. James White. I like James. I told Pop when he picked him up, I said, great pickup, man. So I got to sit next to Pop that whole draft, and I was like, it's a great pickup, man. It's a great pickup.
Executing.
When he got Tyreek Hill, I was like, okay, like, and that's how you do it, man. You gotta go up. You can't be scared, man. You gotta go get that one guy that you really, really want, man.
I had grand plans for the draft, man. We'll talk about that on the other side. I definitely had some, I think seeing Saquon go for 85 was just such a
That set the tone.
Moment.
Yeah, dog. Legit.
I think everybody kind of froze, and like we were all kind of looking at each other. You were going back and forth. You were kind of rocking over there, and T-Man sitting over there, on like behind the table, and all of us are kind of looking at each other like, "Yo, like." Dane sets the market, but like, bro, he could be stuck with this.
and me and Dane talked about it already, and Delaney too. Like, he knows, like, if I make that next bid and get him for 86, I'm done for the rest of the draft, man.
Which would have changed the entire landscape. Bro.
Everything, man. That changed. Like Jason alone being not there changed a lot of stuff, and then that would have just been like a free for all. It would have been like.
So I do think that there are a lot of crazy things that happen, but the three major things, and one of them is not really like one moment, but actually two of them are not moments. One is a moment that was with you and T-Man. The other one was Jay being on auto draft, and then the third is Brandon having like $85 left with like 6 spots to fill or something crazy.
Bro, literally the whole time I'm like, bro, what is he doing? Like, he could have got anybody, or at least drove up the price.
I know Kamal well enough to know. We'll see if he admits to this. I think that Kamal was also basing his strategy off of Brandon's, because he's looking at the budgets and he's like,
he's not big dog. Yep. He's not big dog, and that does change things. And I was like, because after I was setting a little bit, and I was like, I got my couple guys that I really wanted. And I was like, I'm going to chill back, unless it's somebody I absolutely want. And I kind of chilled back. And I'm just like, I'm waiting for the next person to do that. I'm waiting for the next person to be like, just drive it up a little bit. And never came. And then that's how Gronk went for 34. It reminds me of like the, you watch like the outdoor games and stuff when they're doing like races on the big track and they have the pacemaker, the pace setter. Mm-hmm. It's like that one person that sets the pace, and if they, if you try to keep up with them to the detriment of your own disciplined routine, like it throws your whole thing off. And in a way, Brandon was setting an unreasonable pace of not spending money. Right, so everybody wants to conserve a little bit to be able to jump at the right time. Mm-hmm. I think that he led Kamal off the ledge, right? Yep. Kamal just followed him right off because he was looking at that as so that combined with the 85 that T-Man spent took him out of the game for a hot second, right? Yep. And then us all looking at Jason, and honestly, if we had been more prudent in looking at what his max bid was, perhaps Julio could have gone somewhere else. Yeah. But we were all kind of blown away because we didn't know what the Autobot strategy was going to be, and it was spend all the money you got on the best player available until you get him, right? And the crazy thing is we've seen it do a better job than that before too, but it's also, like I've always said, this is a totally different league, totally different landscape, and you cannot mock draft for this league. And I should have known better, but I didn't want to touch it. That was the thing. I didn't want to touch it myself because I didn't want to hear a single word from a single person.
When we knew, I was debating on like, all right, well, are we gonna? Because I know that even on auto draft, you can actually make certain selections. Because I've done it in another league before when I wasn't going to be available. Yeah. And I think that was the year that I ended up with I think it was when Peyton Manning had his crazy year, and I had like AP, Jimmy Graham, Peyton Manning, and that was in a points per completion league. Yeah. So Peyton Manning's putting up 70 points a game, and I think even Calvin Johnson that year. And so, there are ways that an auto draft can really favor somebody because it actually adds discipline to their regime when they wouldn't have it.
We talked about that prior. We thought that was going to happen for him, but it didn't. I guess we should have let my mom draft for him, man. So I won't hold up any more of your time, brother. I know you got to eat. I know you got stuff going on. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and coming and rocking with the Prestige fam for a minute. So. All right, brother.
Thanks to all the Prestige fam. Appreciate your time.
Hey, man. Appreciate you coming through, man. First interview ever, man. So, hey, you're going down in the history books, brother.
See you in the fantasy streets, man.
Get the scrap.
Get the scrap.
Later, bro.
All right, man.